Hello and welcome everyone, I'm C.S.Gilmore and this is Powerwash Simulator. Alright, let's jump into this treehouse. You probably think I built this filthy treehouse deep in the forest because I've let myself go, but actually it's because I'm searching for the missing link. Problem is, whilst I'm out looking for them, and even sometimes in the dead of night, pranksters come all the way out here, hollering unearthly noises and chucking stinky mud around. Kitty, please don't destroy the house. A few times now, I've slid down the steps and clean off the edge. Of course, I've got the reflexes of a mongoose, so I always land on my feet and never break no bones, but it's probably time to get the place hosed down all the same. Thanks, Hunter. Alright, this is going to be a mess. But let's jump on in and see what we're dealing with. And while the kitty is destroying the house, we have a Christmas tree in right now, and one of our cats particularly likes to take the ornaments off. Hey, leave the curtain alone. It's not part of the tree either. Fuzzy maggots. The fuzzy little troublemakers. Alright, what is this? Oh, that's right, we have that equipped. Yeah, alright. Uh-huh. Wow, okay. What are we looking at here? Forest zone. What is this over here? Okay, there's our van. Can't go over there. Invisible wall. Alright. What's this sign? Can we actually read one of these now? Lost cat. Elias. Very fluffy, please. Call something Mayor 6. There's a phone number. Nice waterfall in the distance. Okay, so basically it's just a missing cat poster. I was wondering what those posters were. Wait, what's this? Can I do something with this? No? Wonder what's up with that. I can obviously interact with it to some extent. I'm pretty sure I just nudged it. No? Yeah, okay, I did. You can spin it all over. Interesting, because that won't totally wreck everything. Alright, enough goofing around here. So, hope everyone's having a good time and has been having a decent, well, had a good Thanksgiving and is having a good Christmas. You'll probably won't see this till, it might be before Christmas. I don't remember. I don't recall exactly where I'm going to fill in some episodes still. Oh, this is coming clean much better than I thought. Excellent, excellent. I was kind of worried when it was all these rails and everything that we were going to be in for a massive headache. Of course, I might be speaking too soon, but we'll see. But, yeah. I have been busy recording, well, Arc Raiders, mostly. That got me pretty good. I've been really involved in that. And then that got me back into playing Escape from Tarkov. And I've been experimenting with some things. As anyone who's probably followed this channel for any length of time knows, I don't get paid to do any of this. I just do it as a hobby. But that doesn't mean I don't try to improve quality of my videos, such as finding out how to fix that sound bug eventually. It took me a lot longer than I probably should have, but the sound issue where the video kept having problems and my voice would quiet down anytime the overall ambient noise level got very loud. That was an interesting problem to try to fix, but I believe it's fixed now, and hopefully will stay that way, and I won't have to curse at the machine anymore for screwing up something and not learning about it until after, well, after production is done. But anyway, my next step on trying, now that I think I've got the sound fixed, more or less, I'm trying to improve things by improving the video quality next. And how I'm doing that is I realized that when I'm exporting videos, the settings it automatically goes to are 30 frames per second. And I don't know why that's the auto setting. I don't know why it goes to that as the auto setting. I haven't found a way to adjust it, like to lock it in as a different setting at all. But I'm now adjusting it manually every video edit to where it should be outputting them now at 60 frames per second. Which I'm hoping will improve the overall look of the videos, how they flow, and their smoothness and whatnot. Of course, it could be a problem if, for some reason, the game is weird and everything's slower. I suppose that could make having the video... I don't think it would make it chunkier. Would it? I'm not quite sure how video works still in some areas. To whether if a video was recorded, like, and in a game that was below that threshold, whether then adjusting it to a higher threshold, whether it would cause issues. Like, example, a game that I've never played and don't have access to it because it's not on PC, like that, Blood Bowl. I've heard that one's notorious for being, like, really low frames. So if I recorded it and then changed it to 60 frames per second, would it make it really jumpy, or would it actually make it extra crazy smooth? I'm not 100% sure. And that's unfortunately one of those things once again, I'm going to have to learn as we go and figure it out. And hopefully not regret it. But I wanted to try that lately on my videos, and as far as I can tell from what I've seen, it is working well, especially for Arc Raiders and Escape from Tarkov. I don't know if it's making them look any better, really. I don't really notice for sure, but I think it makes them a little smoother and a little just nicer in general. Man, they got stuff on the inside lip. How am I supposed to get... I'm glad they didn't put it everywhere on the inside lip, but... And of course there's going to be stuff on the bottom of these steps, I bet. I'm going to have to get underneath and try to get that handled. These, yeah. So that's been one of my main goals lately, and working on projects while feeding my extraction tube addiction that has kicked in. Unfortunately, that does mean that we aren't seeing a lot of other things right now, like Hollow Knight and some of the others are kind of on hold. No Man's Sky, I'm kind of debating whether to continue No Man's Sky just because it feels like I still get stuck in a very much a repeat loop of actions in No Man's Sky, which is a downside for it, because when I do play it, I do love playing it, and I get really into it at times, especially when we actually find something new and are discovering things, but it just... The overall gameplay loop is a lot of, go find this, go build this, go over here, now find this and build this, now build this, now build this. You still need these 3 resources all the time. Go find more of those resources because you use them all. Building this, 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 and this. Now you need more of those resources to build this. And you know that's not always the case, because like there are some of the missions where you get some definite new stuff. And you need higher level items and equipment, which usually mean going to a specific planet or a more dangerous planet and exploring. And I know I haven't gotten far enough to see everything. And because I know there's all sorts of weird stuff in No Man's Sky, like living ships I've read about. I haven't actually seen them, but I know they exist. And I'm curious to see how that would turn out, really, but at the same time, I don't know if I'm going to get that far before I get really kind of bored with it, because that itch for No Man's Sky has kind of died down now for me. You know how it goes, you just kind of get bored sometimes with games, and some games it's just not always, it's not always about completing a game, but like enjoying the journey and also discovering things about it. And yeah, with No Man's Sky, I think I've kind of currently burned out my drive on that one. So I'm debating whether to go back to that after I get through some of these other things. I do want to get through all the missions for Arc Raiders, because from what I've seen of Arc Raiders, that is entirely possible and doable without being a massive pain in the neck all the time and without having to, like, it's nowhere near the struggle of Tarkov to complete a mission. Because Tarkov has so many where it's like, you have to get in, you have to do this thing, and then you have to get out alive. But also you have to do this, this, and this while you're there, or you have to get this specific item that is only spawning randomly in certain areas, maybe, if you're lucky. Good luck finding it. Also, you have to get out alive with it. And Tarkov is really hard to get out alive. I've been managing somewhat, but it's still, we're getting a few episodes in. The 1.0 release of Tarkov has been really interesting. I mean, I've liked it. I've liked some of the changes they've made to the game. And I feel like I can kind of hold my own most of the time, except for the higher levels. Like, I'm running into some really interesting issues with it. The high-level scavs are still insanely dangerous and can kill me really quick. Like, sometimes I'm like, oh, wait, there's a scav there. Bam, dead. Those tend to be like the boss scavs and things like that. I know they're supposed to be insanely tough and all, but then comparatively, the standard scav and some of the player scavs, like, I mean, the player scavs kind of make sense because they're not sure if you're a PMC all the time, and they're trying to avoid probably losing rep with fence. So they don't want to shoot other scavs accidentally. But the PC scavs for sure, for the average scav, ones that just normally are there and aren't a boss type, they're kind of stupid and not the best shots, it feels like. Which is weird because I remember back in the day, like, they would all murder you on sight. I think that was one of the run-throughs there. One of the wipes they definitely had. I had played in the past where the scavs were a lot more murderous, it felt like, and a lot better at the murdering. But yeah, now most of the scavs are kind of, they're not very good at some of that. They're a little bit slow, and they just don't quite pull it off. So I'm not sure how I feel about that. Because it's like, okay, cool, I can actually kill some things without being murdered immediately. Still have to watch out for players. I've actually taken out a player or two, but it's still more often that I get taken out. Admittedly, part of that's gear difference and also major skill differences. I am nowhere near as skilled as most players that have gotten far more hours in than I have. And that's Tarkov in a nutshell in general is, yeah, you get the people who like live, breathe, and die Tarkov, and you get the people that are more like me. They're like, I enjoy Tarkov sometimes, for some reason, even though it causes me pain and suffering. So yeah, I don't know. I don't expect to finish Tarkov, just because that one is such a pain, and there are so many missions, and some of them are seriously ridiculous. Like, Arc Raiders has some annoying ones where it's like, go find this vague location and do this thing that we kind of tell you loosely where to look. Good luck finding it. But Tarkov will be like, you must get this specific piece out of a list of 80 different pieces and make it work in a way that you need it to do this thing. Also, you have to go take it here. Don't lose it, because otherwise you have to find another one. Or buy another one. Maybe, if it isn't a have to be found in raid item. You have to go over here, do this thing with it, and then get out alive. If you die, well, start over. And if you lose the item, go find another one, then try again. And I don't know. Yeah, Tarkov is just a lot harder. But at the same time, that's its appeal for him. That it scratches at the inner masochist, as it were, kind of like the Souls games. Of, man, I am suffering, and this is really hard. But when I beat it, oh, it feels so good. Okay, how is everything else around here filthy, but this tree is spotless? What is up with that? That doesn't make any sense. Also, the wood in this area, they need to, I mean, either they have a really light staining on it, or they really, really need to stain this wood if they don't want it to start rotting. Just saying, as someone who's had issues with that sort of thing in the past with other things, and seen how it works, yeah, they definitely need to stain this wood. Otherwise, it's going to start getting wet, and if it gets wet, it's going to start molding and rotting away, because wood is biodegradable. Go figure. Like this here, it's painted. That's good. The paint helps preserve it. But this down here, these shingles, they don't look like they're painted, and they don't look like they've been stained. Or if they did stain it, it is a extremely light stain, and I wouldn't trust it to hold. Okay, the upper deck top side is big, and the trim is apparently going to go all the way around the base of this. Good to know. I like these windows. Design-wise, they're kind of cool, except for I would be so worried about someone walking through one since it's basically a doorway with its layout and design here. It looks like a doorway. I could totally see someone walking up here and just smack into it. That would be the main issue. They should have the windows slightly smaller, probably. Just for safety purposes. Oh gee, I don't want it broken. That or they should put some, what's it called when we have like a fancy design around it? It's, shoot, what is it called? Pane. Not window pane. What is it called? Can't think of it at the moment. But, yeah, they need something with that window to make it so it's obviously a window and people don't try to walk through it. Kind of like how you get stories of people walking through their glass doors. Glass sliding doors at times, and oof. Yeah, that's an expensive oops, I stepped through that. Besides generally being painful, probably, too. In other ways. Besides the bill of repairing. I like this design. Otherwise, though, like, the overall layout of this place, like, the concept is cool. Though, I don't feel like a treehouse like this would be a good long-term design. Because, you see, the main problem is here, like this. It's all tight against it. Now, the problem is, this tree is alive. And it needs to stay alive in order to be healthy and hold up the house. So you've got to keep widening this in order to accommodate its growth. And eventually, it's going to be a problem. Plus, if the tree gets unhealthy, or struck by lightning, or, various other issues, you're going to have trouble if it dies. You've just lost a primary support for your house, and you can't just, oops, I stuck another one on there. I mean, I suppose you could kind of, just put up a hole underneath it, but depending on how high up you are, that could be a real problem, and you'd have to really adjust some things to accommodate the weight. I don't know. It's a cool idea and design, but it has flaws for long-term sustainability without heavy maintenance. I mean, some heavy maintenance. Because you've got to keep the house in balance with the nature it's hooked up to. And I'm happy that most of the stuff is just coming off without me having to put on any special sprays or anything like that. I'm gonna have to get on the roof of this place, apparently. That's gonna be fun. Okay, where is this window frame so dirty? Underneath? I can't get underneath anymore. It's literally impossible for me to reach that. Is there an inner piece I'm missing? Don't see anything. Nope. Nope. So how am I supposed to get the last... There we go. I was like, how am I supposed to get that clean if I can't quite get a angle on anything that isn't already clean up there? The eaves are going to take forever to clean. But once again, these eaves need to be waterproofed and stained probably for that waterproofing, and also just to keep them good, because especially with the way this roof is, that water's going to run right down there and then rot the edges. And then it's going to fall on this porch and rot down here and rot the porch itself if you're not careful about it. This whole place needs so much maintenance to maintain. How did I get on this subject? Oh yeah, just kind of started on home improvement if your house is a tree house. Okay, let me take a look around here now. How do I want to do this? Let's keep with this. Yeah, this is working out fairly nicely. The upper deck topside is going to take a while because it looks like it's got a lot of ground to cover. Quite literally. Yep, there's that. Frame is still dirty. That window frame is good. This one is not. There it is. Now it is. Now it's good. That one's done. Oh, got that full done. That trim done. That trim's done. Get under the eaves. Get this light source. Feel a little worried about these light sources. They either have to be solar powered or you'd have to get them. Well, I guess they could be battery powered, but otherwise you have to run an electrical cord down through there. And with them being around the edge with the rain drip, that's a lot of potential electricity getting wet. So it looks nice, but something that I tend to harp on in a lot of different cases. Look versus functionality. And me as a person, I'm a much more like, okay, cool, it's nice if it looks nice, but if it doesn't function well, or if it's a pain to maintain, I don't like it. So, like, yeah, like this has some issues. It looks great, but it's got issues. They're going to make it a nightmare long term. Even if people weren't throwing money. Kind of surprised we haven't had any messages from our employer. Usually they like to have some comments in here. I guess maybe just go wait until I get to a star. This is definitely a bigger one of the projects. Alright. Come on. Let's get this done. That part. Nice. Coming along nicely. Just gotta make sure I don't miss any pieces while I'm going through these areas, because if I do, it's gonna be so hard to find it later. Alright. I mean, and my harping on things, functionality versus look, goes well beyond, like, housing. What's a good example? Man, the times I've had to do maintenance on things, and you can't do maintenance on without a headache of an issue or another because the design doesn't allow for easy maintenance. Or having to move something. Like, washers, dryers, dishwashers, those sorts of things. They're big cubes, right? Ovens. Big cubes. Heavy appliances usually, and you usually have to get them into Like, if you probably have to get them up some stairs or down some stairs. You probably have to get them through an area, carry them around, put them into a little slot, slip them in, get them into position, make it work. And yet they don't come with handles. They don't have a handhold on the side. They don't have anything like that. If you want to hold them without having to really work for a grip, you have to use special. You have to either MacGyver or something, or use like straps, and those aren't exactly ideal under certain circumstances, especially if your space is limited. You have to lower them into position or raise them out into a different position. Like, it's just a pain to work with them. Why don't they have a handhold? They should come with a handhold. At least one on every side. Just as a place that you can grip without going, gee, if I pull on this, it's going to snap something important off. No, this is just, it should have handles built into the main body, which is designed to, just be the main frame. You shouldn't have to worry about, man, if I pull on this part accidentally, it's going to snap off, important electrical piece. Or damage some connection. Just, no. Especially with, like, gas stoves and, like, gas appliances. I know they're a lot of places are trying to cut down on those. But even still, you don't want to accidentally damage the feed. Because, a damaged feed line, and suddenly you've got gases leaking to your building, and then someone, lights a match, or a spark occurs from something, anything, like you plugged in the machine, and as you were plugging in, you get a spark on the plug. I mean, how many of you have seen that? Probably a lot. And then, kablooey! And suddenly everyone's gone on into the afterlife. In a big, fiery explosion that could level the neighborhood. Or sure feel like it. I mean, man, some of the explosions you can get from a leaky gas line are insane. Depending on how much gas is leaked before it goes off. Ooh boy, you can kiss a house goodbye, and kiss the neighboring houses probably goodbye, at least for being undamaged. Hope no one in the couple block radius likes their windows. Or, yeah, hope that no one in the radius likes the windows, because those windows are going to be one of the first things that gets blown to Kingdom Come. And it shatters along with everything else because, they're not made for high pressure change, sadly, in the surrounding atmosphere. Like a small mushroom cloud erupting from the neighbor's house. And even without shrapnel. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. Also, okay, this isn't a bad fence design. Like this railing along the edge here. I guess it's considered railing, not fencing. But this isn't a bad railing design. It's high enough that you can lean on. It's low enough you could lean on it still comfortably, but high enough you shouldn't be worried about tripping over and falling over it. I don't know how many times in like real life I've seen an area and the railing is so low, it's like someone is going to trip over this and die. And they have regulations for some of this stuff. Like, stairs and things like this. There's regulations about, like, you can only have holes that are so big or so small. Like, you can't have holes under in certain dimensions because people, like children, could get their heads stuck in them. And weird, fun, problems like that come up. And, that's a whole thing that there's safety regulations about. Railing on stairs, especially, I know that's a thing. Or on cribs, they have to make sure that, oh yeah, there's usually some gaps between the bars, but they don't want to have any risk of any child, getting a arm jammed in there and stuck and broken, or getting their head stuck in there. Ugh, that'd be a nightmare. And for good reason, they don't want that, because you don't want your kids getting killed. Looks like they made these all one piece, so at least I don't have to worry about cleaning 6,000 different pieces of fence railing. Okay, why is it so weirdly sticky going down this thing? Yeah. But yeah, you don't have to worry about all these different fence railing bits or stair railing, because they're all one piece. So I don't have to worry about, oh, I got that one piece and that one piece and that one piece. I just have to worry about the general whole. That helps in this design period and this design of, what I have to do. Just swap this to this angle. Go along here. Yep, that was right. There's stuff underneath. I can't go any lower, so hopefully I don't have to work out how to get anything on these bottom two steps, because I can't go underneath them at all. These other ones I can, though, and that's good because they are definitely dirt. Pretty soon I'm going to be able to stand up underneath them anyway, because they're going up higher and higher. I like the wood design. They like the texture they put on these things. I like that. Kind of looks nice. For the grains in the wood and all that. Some of them look maybe a little funky. Like, okay, how did that get cut out that way from a tree? But yeah, nah, that's entirely possible still. More or less. Some of them definitely have some oddities to the angling. Or they look like they should be made out of, like, multiple pieces. Alright, let me get under here again. That's missing some spots. There we go. Oh, I've got to get underneath this entire thing. Oh, that's going to be its own nightmare. That is going to be a nightmare all its own to try to clean. This may be a two-parter as far as episodes go, depending on how long this takes. Because this place is big and dirty. I think it goes there, that goes there. Whew. So, fun things I've noticed. Escape from Tarkov. Still as much of a pain as ever. And definitely not for everyone. It is one of those games that is very much for a very explicitly, I would say, probably small tangent of players. People that are very much wanting a certain type of experience, most of which is suffering. That's Escape from Tarkov. Arc Raiders, I'm noticing, while it is also in moderately the same category, it's an extraction shoot. So it means it's the same kind of design as Escape from Tarkov in a lot of ways. It doesn't go for the nitty-gritty realism nearly as much, and it doesn't go for being quite as much of a pain. Plus, you can easily choose, like, if you're doing squads, you're in squads. If you're doing solos, you're in solos. and that you don't have to worry about. Tarkov, you have to worry about, oh, good, I'm running around solo. Hope that's not a 3-man or 5-man team over there. I think they go up to 5-man. Or is it 6-man? I don't think it was quite 6. Can't remember for sure. It's been a while since I really looked at any of that, and I don't play with other people, so I don't really experience it enough to test. But I know that Escape from Tarkov is suffering a lot more. That's probably its definition of, what type of game is this? Pain. Arc Raiders is much more family friendly, which is probably why it's gotten that kind of that nickname, as it were, of being the extraction shooter for people with a life, with people with a job. Tarkov is very much a extraction shooter for people that, you know, want to dedicate themselves to Escape from Tarkov. Or at least that's how it was. I'm kind of curious if it's going to maintain that in a lot of ways, because one, it now has an ending, actually. So that's something. Like, it has an end to its story now. In the past, it didn't. It was in design, and it didn't have an actual ending. You just ran out of missions. But without really resolving the storyline. Now you can end that. Yay. Good stuff? Probably. Okay, what is up with this stairway still? What am I missing? What am I missing on this stairway? Reveal your secrets. Where am I missing you? Missed some scratches there. Okay, not get stuck on every step. That would also be nice. Okay, something I am missing somewhere. Oh, I bet I know where. Wait, no, handrail? Okay, the handrail is separate from the steps themselves, but the steps are one piece, for sure. So what am I missing here? Let me try this. Just in case I can blast some under areas that I can't otherwise reach. Yeah, I don't see anything there. Missed some spots on this railing. But nothing major. So what am I missing? Oh, whoa. Missed that entire inner area there. Alright, that's done. Little spot, little spots. This could be a really weirdly nitpicky job. I hope not. I hate the really nitpicky ones. They get to be so annoying. Whew. Okay, I think I see part of my problem here. I need to get the outer portion of that. Maybe? No? Not that, not that. Where am I missing a piece of this? Okay. Steps, come over. Oh. Is this kind of part of the staircase or part of the railing? That's what it is. Okay. I was like, what am I missing on these stairs? It's because this area doesn't count as railing, it counts as part of the steps. Got it. Easy enough. This counts as railing. Do need to get this outer portion of it anyway, so there. I have a ladder. I feel like a ladder. No, nothing is. I really wish there was slightly different climbables for getting up onto some of these areas, because, like, this is not quite cutting it for what I need in a lot of ways, and yet it's probably my best bet at the same time for the angling I need to get. Oh, this is a short one. I just realized that. I'm used to the super tall stairways like this. So this is a new one, but just slightly. Not really a huge new thing. Just a half step, as it were. Oh good, that one's done. Cool. Let's just speed along this then. I'm probably trying to be too thorough. Self-solving problem, as is often the case with these sorts of things. It's hard to get the angling on a few of these because they're up so high, and this stairway is not. There we go. Okay, that's done. Then outer fencing. Can I get the angle on this? Looks like I can. Good. Once again, though, still needs staining. Or probably gonna need a fresh stain after all this dirt gets blasted off of it. Because this power washing, I imagine, would damage any staining. Given you're power washing the wood. And usually that would cause some effects. Alright, we're making progress. I feel like this underside actually isn't going to be as bad as the top side of it. Because it seems to be coming clean, it's just a matter of I gotta move this stairway around. And this is why they gave me a half stair. Because I have to... Oh, there's a full stair over there. Oh, whoa, whoa. How did I pick that up from here? Put that back down now. Don't know how I did that. But that was very interesting. There's some talking. I can give you some missing link facts based on what I've found so far, if you like. Okay, what are we talking about missing link-wise? Like evolutionary missing links between human and something else? Or are we talking about a different animal? Like, what are we talking about? Are you talking Bigfoot, cryptids? There's a lot of missing link concepts out there, and I don't know which one you're going for. Here I am jumping around underneath this place because I ultimately just got easier to do it this way. Well, that part was. For a few spots. Okay, get these little undersides and deck joists. I do like that they split the underside into smaller pieces. I guess that's part of the reason the underside feels like it's easier, because it's taking it one little piece at a time, but not like tiny pieces, but small enough that they're more manageable, but big enough that they still feel like making progress. While the upper area seems to be just one big piece that it's not going to be done until it's all done. So it feels like it takes a lot longer in a lot of ways because you gotta progress one little bit at a time. Back it down and move this again. Like, I know this is basically filling the purpose of a giant stool. Kind of wish I had a slightly different one, though. I didn't have to keep walking down and around as much. If that makes any sense. Alright, that one there. Okay, what am I missing? Over there. And on this side. There we go. That railing is going to be the real pain, I bet, for this. area just to get, because I'm gonna have to keep going up and down to get the outer edges. The underside here is not as bad because I can kind of cover a larger section for each stop of the lift. Each stop of the steps, I can cover a good section of work area. All right, and go down again, and yeah, I think I'm gonna have to make this a two-parter. It is way too big. This. Okay. How am I supposed to get closer to that then? Maybe I do have to go find a ladder leaning up against the tree underside there. Do 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 do. Oh, darn it. Try it again. Okay, this is problematic. Why do I have railing over part of this and then not over like a whole chunk of it? I have railing on some of these stairs so I can just walk around up here no problem, and then other times it's like, yeah, drop off. Go ahead. You don't need to stay up here, right? While you're trying to look up and see where in the world you're going? Is this to spray down the right areas? There we go. You know, all the cleaning I've done, all the jobs I've done, I don't know if I've ever used a pressure washer. I don't think I have. I mean, I've gotten some similar equipment before. Back when my mom was running a boarding and grooming kennel, I would help out there, and part of the equipment was essentially, it was a what would be the right way to describe it? A plastic jug or barrel with a pump built into it. And that wasn't really a power washer, though. Well, it kind of behaved similarly, I guess. Maybe it was considered a power... Nah, not a power washer because it doesn't use power. It's a pressure washer. But yeah, you'd pump it a bit, like pumping air into it to pressurize the container, and then pull a trigger on a nozzle, and it would, because of the pressure in the container, it would spray the water out, or whatever solution you mixed in there, and you'd use that to clean up the runs where the dogs would stay, because, you know, dogs being dogs, especially dogs that are being kept in conditions they're maybe not as comfortable with, they have a bad tendency of peeing and pooping on things all over the place rather than just outside where they're out. So you have to adjust the area accordingly to meet their needs. I've got to figure out a better way to get this free, because I can't get this stairway underneath it. But yeah, those were an interesting tool, kind of handy. But even when I was like working early morning custodial in college, I don't think I ever used a pressure washer like that. We used a big kind of like a Zamboni machine. There was like a giant mop that would go along and scrub the floors. We used one of those. That was interesting at times. I was one of the people that got regularly entrusted with it because I was one of the few people that didn't crash into a bunch of stuff or fall asleep while driving it. But I'll tell you, for whatever reason, just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, up and down a gym floor at 6 in the morning, it can be hard not to fall asleep while driving that thing. But yeah, there was a whole thing of, if you crashed it, you lost privileges to use it. So you had to be careful. Don't fall asleep. Don't crash it. I was one of those that could be trusted to drive that thing around and clean the floors and the halls. So we used to stay on the gym floors. Oh, that took forever though. Then you had to manually mop along between the bleachers because can't fit a big machine in there. Also, then we had to, I forget how often, it was pretty regularly, we would sanitize all the seating. That meant going along with a spray bottle and a rag, a cloth basically, and spraying down seat after seat and wiping them down, wiping down the armrests. You don't think about how much work goes into maintaining a basic clean condition on a lot of public buildings. But there's a lot that goes into maintaining a clean college and university building setup. I'm so glad I never worked in the new there was a science and like engineering building they built partway through my college time, and I am so glad I did not work there because it was one of those new designs where they love to put windows on areas, and they had floor to ceiling windows in some areas, like from like the first floor up to the second, or I can't remember if they had a third floor, at least second floor, but massive windows. And the poor custodial people that had to clean those things every single day because someone would go and touch them and smear greasy handprints all over on one spot or another. And if you clean one piece of the window, you gotta clean the rest of it because otherwise it looks off. And I've had to clean enough windows as is, of normal sizes and proportions. No, do not want to have to clean a bigger mess than that. Okay, is there a better? Got another one there. How many? Wait, that one has 2 floors. Does this one over here have a 3rd floor then? 2. Now that one has 2. So we got 2 of those. One of those. Do I have a ladder? I would really like a ladder to get along the middle areas. Oh, this is weird. This is supposed to be a little obstacle course, balance beam scenario. Kind of looks like it. At least I don't have to crawl down underneath them. I guess they're technically also benches, but now this looks like a balance beam obstacle course, mini obstacle course design. Not even a full obstacle course, because if it was a full one, it would be way bigger. This is just a basic. Yep, jump between the 4 tires, step on the little steps, walk along the beam, turn, walk along the beam. Yeah. This is more like a kid's playground one, and even a small one at that, I would say. Yeah. I remember when playgrounds were fun like that, and you could fall and hurt yourself. Still sure, but like it feels like a lot of playgrounds anymore are. What's the right way to describe it? A lot of playgrounds anymore have been dumbed down to the point of, yeah, you're way less likely to accidentally get hurt doing something, but you can't do something most of the time without doing something really dumb to even, like, risk that sort of thing. You gotta, like, purposefully do something real stupid to even potentially risk serious injury. No, I guess a lot of there are still things on the playgrounds you could definitely figure out a way to get hurt on. Not that that's the goal, obviously, but, you know, like, you get what I mean, right? They've dumbed down a lot of the playground stuff They don't have a lot of things they used to have in a playground that were a lot of fun. Now all the monkey bars are only a certain height and so on and so forth, and you gotta be yeah. Just they made it so you can't get hurt nearly as easily, but you also can't have nearly as much fun on it. It's not nearly as much of a challenge to climb over through a jungle gym because the bars are honestly probably closer together and also not as high off the ground. I don't know. Maybe they are still, and it's just they don't feel like it because I've gotten older, bigger than I was as a kid. It definitely feels like something's changed with playgrounds. Of course, when I was a kid, you could also, like, as a homeschooled kid, you could just go to the playground at the school after school hours and play on the playground. Now, you try that, and they're like, oh, sorry, you can't be here. The school's closed. No, can't do that. Probably because some idiot hurt themselves on the playground and sued the school at some point in the past and ruined everyone else's fun. Instead of just, oh yeah, no, you're playing here, it's a playground. It's designed for playing on. Go ahead and do that. Play at your own risk. Don't do stupid things and get yourself killed or injured. And if you do, it's not on us. Because, I don't know. Public schools do a bunch of weird stuff. The way they do things, and they handle things so badly at times. I mean, well, public school designs in general are bad here in the US. I mean, they don't work in a way that the teachers can properly function. They don't work in a way that even remotely teach to students' level and help them learn and grow and love learning. They usually are designed more to make people regurgitate whatever information they are forced into and then forget it, and then they don't have to remember it ever again. And hope it doesn't become relevant to real life. A bunch of skills aren't relevant to real life, it feels like. I mean, I remember even in college, how many times I had to write papers. It's like, yeah, what point in my career am I going to be writing papers? Guess what? Skill I have not used since college. Writing papers. I have not had to write a source-cited paper in MLA format or some of the other formats that are out there. Nope, that was only college. And public schools just practically just a bad babysitting job for kids anymore, so their parents don't have to watch them. And I say a bad babysitting job because they really don't handle it well. They don't engage the children in any activities that actually, hardly any more engage children in activities that actually help. Most of the ones that were taught actual useful skills, they've stopped funding because they'd rather fund something that doesn't actually help long term. I don't know. I got issues with public schools. Also, their idea of how to run security is useless. They tend to be like, yes, we will monitor things, but then also, if you get bullied, you can't fight back without getting grounded, without getting in trouble yourself. You might even get in more trouble than the bully. And everything. My siblings went to public school, and I got some interesting stories from them about just some of the interactions you get. Like, someone once picked a fight with one of their friends, and they stepped in. They got detention over it. It is for stepping in for their friend. And the bully also got detention, and then they ended up coming to terms of dropping it, or something like that. Basically asking to have the matter dropped, because the bully came from an abusive household, and if they actually got seriously like in trouble at school, then for fighting and all that, then they'd get beat at home or something stupid. And it's like, maybe you should address the issue then of the whole abusive household thing. Not make everyone else's life miserable because you can't enforce rules without completely destroying this other kid who's probably being problematic because they don't have any actual idea of how to not be problematic because that's how their family is. Maybe we should get them help instead of trying to just ignore the problem or deal with it in a way that is obviously not working. You also get some interesting contrasts between time frames of how schools handled things in the past versus now. Like now, it's the whole prisoners running the asylum kind of concept, because the kids can get away with a bunch of stuff and the teachers can't do anything about it without being fired or worse. And yeah, that can be good in some ways, but then you also got the issue of like in the past, teachers could do stuff about it. Like teachers could break up fights, but then you also had the issue of you could have teachers beating up students. That in the past, it's like, okay, so we went from one extreme teachers could beat up students, that's not good, to teachers can't do anything, including defend themselves from violent students because they will get in trouble for it. And it's like, okay, find the happy balance. There is a happy balance in there of reasonable situations which they can do certain things. But no, because our systems are all janky laws that don't make any sense long term, they can't defend themselves. They can't do anything without risking their job and probably a lawsuit. So now it's the other issue. So basically it's one issue or another. And they don't seem to have any idea of wanting to fix that in any reasonable way. No one seems to be stepping up and going, we need to revamp the entire school system again. Instead, we're going to make things harder and harder for everyone. We don't need these activities that actually taught kids useful life skills. We'll just pour more into sports, which will only get like 3 of them actual college degrees. Or probably not even college degrees, college, what's the right word? Get them into college on a tuition payment type deal for being a sports person or overachieving in some way. But then, they have to keep doing that sport to maintain that, and they have to be meeting the certain standards on it. And if they either can't or they don't, they lose that, and boom. And then that's only a small group of people, because you only have so many people on a team. They're getting that. And most sports don't teach you any lasting, long-term skill sets that you can take into real life, because probably 99% of people or more are not going to be doing sports for a living. But why would we keep all the other curricular activities that actually taught useful things? So many public schools, from what I've been told and heard from various sources of people that go there, and seen from people that go there, don't maintain actual helpful situations and don't maintain standards for most of it. Like, around here, I don't know how, maybe it's different for you guys wherever you are at, but around here, we have people graduating from high school with flying colors who cannot conjugate a verb, and half of them can't read. Literacy is dying. And that's a basic skill that should be considered an important life skill that they should not be able to graduate without. But they do, and they graduate them because they don't want to hold them back. It's like, yeah, cool, you just set them up for failure in something that actually matters. Because now they can't do, like, 90% of the jobs out there require some form of reading. I mean, we're talking basic stuff. Like, they can't read a street sign. So how are they supposed to follow directions if they're doing anything that involves travel? How are they supposed to, read basic instructions? How are they supposed to know basic safety measures if they can't read the manual on, maybe I shouldn't light the Roomba on fire? Or maybe I shouldn't let the Roomba suck up water because then it will break. I don't know why I went with Roombas there. That's just what came to mind. And I'm ranting a lot. I'm going to get in so much trouble for this one, for this episode, but you know what? Whatever. People are allowed to have opinions. No fighting in the comments, please. Like, respectful, maintain that. And just try to be constructive. Like, what would be a workable solution to these problems now? Because, I'm not making these things up. These are things I'm getting from people who have experienced it, or things I've seen myself. I didn't go to public school myself, but I know a lot of people, and I'm related to a lot of people that did, and it had various experiences. Actually, that reminds me of a funny story. I'll go on a tangent here. My dad, in school, he learned to read at a really young age. And the school didn't believe him when he said, I can read. And whatever reason, I don't know what they were thinking, they basically sent him to the principal. They sent him to the principal's office and called his parents in. Because he's lying. Now, I want you to stop and think about how could we have proven whether he could read or not. And he wasn't just memorizing the materials and spitting it out. I'm betting all or most of you right now have already solved a solution to this problem. Yeah, well, at the time, the school district did not. They called his parents in. And they were like, he's lying about being able to read. And she went and handed him a newspaper. And went, can you read this? Read it. And he did. He could read. Now, newspapers aren't nearly as common a thing anymore, but, we could pull up a random article offline. Or we could, grab a book. Or a pamphlet. Anything that, they haven't memorized. And gone, okay, read this. Cool, you can read or not. Super easy, basic test. And the school district couldn't think of that. And wasted basically everyone's time there. That's one story from my dad's growing up. So that was even before, and it's gotten way worse since then. I know it's gotten worse, not better. From much younger people I've seen and talked to and worked with, and yeah, there are various experiences and other things. So many schools have gone so bad. And sometimes you can still get some good ones out there, sure. But as far as the public schools go, they're just becoming worse and worse as far as functionality as a school goes. And we really need to revamp our system. So yeah, comments, if you're going to have comments, please, once again, be respectful. Let's maybe constructive criticism. Let's brainstorm ideas. Like, what could help fix something like that? What could help create a situation in which the school system isn't a broken piece of garbage and people actually learn useful skills at it and actually, get something out of school other than being babysat and fed subpar food most likely half the time, and yeah, or not fed at all. If man, I remember when that was a thing. Oh, you don't have lunch money. Well, guess you don't get fed, or you get fed the most basic non-healthy junk, if at all. Like, that was a thing for a while there. I think they've actually addressed that one slightly, though. From what I've been hearing, they didn't fully address it properly, and whoever thought that certain things were considered reliable food sources for a day-to-day, existence, probably needs to get instructed on basic nutrition facts. And that's a whole other rant. I'm getting off topic. So yeah, constructive criticism. What can we do to fix these things? Maybe, I don't know. From what I've seen, I think a big issue also with a lot of schools is time. Like I said, they're just glorified babysitting for a lot of the time, because they take the kids for most of the day. Missing link factor. They're sometimes called Bigfoot because of their one big foot, kind of like a bear's. The other one's small, like a cat's. I found track evidence of this myself. That is not a take on Bigfoot I was expecting. Okay. Wow. But yeah, one of the big things I've seen with issue with public school is the time constraints. It's full of busy work for no good reason. It doesn't teach useful skills. It's just, here, you have to sit in class, do this stuff all day, and then when you go home, you have to do this homework. And if you don't get this homework done, you're in trouble. But also, the homework's just reiterating a bunch of stuff, or maybe like the homework's involved with all this other things that you probably covered in class already, or should have covered in class. But also, it's still not teaching you anything actually. And kids don't have time to be kids. They don't have time to play. They don't have time to just spend time being a kid, because you're at school. You have to do school stuff. Then you go home, and you have to do more schoolwork. Also, you probably have chores. You probably have to eat. Food's important. Sleep is important, especially when this kid's growing. You have to get proper sleep. But no, you don't get time for that because you got to get that homework done. And if you don't, you're in trouble. And then, what else is there? And that's even assuming you've got a functioning household. Like, family issues aren't a major thing. Maybe you are also having to work a job, especially in your later high school years. Because maybe you have to work for a living to help support the family or support yourself. And then you've got job time to account for. You've got so many things pressing in on your time. I think there's been some studies on the math involved, and basically kids don't have time to be kids. There's no time to play. There's no time to do most of the stuff that a kid should be doing to healthily develop and not be stressed out of their minds, because they're always having to be doing something else, usually work related or just survival related. That was one of the great things I had growing up. As a homeschooler, I didn't have to. My life was not schoolwork all day. I had to do homework because my mom had to write the reports and everything, and go over what we covered. But I could, for the most part, pick my subject, and maybe one day I would just focus purely on science or history, and I wouldn't even touch math for a day or two or more, give or take. Oh, this is rusty. That's going to come clean. And when I did do math, I could, work on it and take it at my own pace. And maybe I didn't cover 16 pages in a day or whatever. I only covered a page or two, if that. But I'd actually be learning how it was done and using it more than once, enough to remember a lot of it. And even then, I've still forgotten most of math stuff once you get into like the algebra and whatnot, because gee, you don't use algebra most of your life. I mean, there's certain spots you use for a few things, and those things I use, and then I learn them, and I remember them. But you have to actually apply what you learn, and have a reason to apply what you learn in order to really learn most things. And a lot of junk they teach is just junk. Like, cool, someone designed this formula. Memorize it. Cool. You'll use it 2 times. Now it's done. The test is over. You'll never use it again. And what good does that do? Nothing. Wasting my time. Wasting everyone's time. But growing up, I didn't have to worry about that. Like I said, I could pick my subjects more or less and focus on things. I could become really good at one thing or a couple things. I could actually do the things I enjoyed. If I wanted to write a paper, I didn't have to do it on a very specific subject half the time. Like, if I had to make a report on something, on studying things to prove I was actually, studying something, I could pick a subject and go with it. And I'd still have to do research. I'd still have to write a paper sometimes. But it would be, I would have free reign over that. A lot more so. And because of that, I could learn, actually, because I'd study something I was actually interested in. And I would learn about it and actually want to learn about it. And not just be like, man, I have to write a paper about how the degradation of objects in orbit around the planet. I don't care about that. But, and I gotta go do some research and write a paper about it and hope that I can find actual information and that I don't want to stare. I don't know. That's just a random thing that I made up. I've never had to write a paper on that, thankfully, and probably never. That sounds like way too much to rocket science. That I don't work in that field. Why would I care about rocket science? Someone wants to do rocket science and get into that field. Cool, they can do the math on that sort of thing and learn how it works and what they need to know about it. That's their problem. Now, downside of being homeschooled, when the schools actually have extracurricular activities and of some sort that might be interesting, as a homeschooler, I couldn't really do those. But I mean, anymore nowadays, even like most of the extracurricular activities aren't even school related anymore because they're done by people because the schools stopped doing half of them. So they're done by other groups. You want to do robotics and other cool things? You're probably going to have to just find a group somewhere in the neighborhood and do it with them, right? Because chances are your school doesn't have all that much going for it. And if it does, it's probably a underfunded group anyway. You'd have to figure out how to make it work. I'm ranting again, aren't I? So, what could we fix things with this? Yeah, like I said, time. I think time is one of those big things that we could definitely improve on. Generally, like less time in school or less time actively having to be sitting down studying a thing. Kids aren't supposed to be sitting half of the day. They should be out, be able to move around, play a game, do activities, like move. Exercise is important, sure. I mean, like exercising without having to be doing a sport. Like, a sport could be one of the ways of doing it, but they shouldn't have to be doing a specific sport and be on the team or anything like that in order to have time to go out and do things. And yeah, so you might be thinking, well, they get recess. Yeah, for like an hour once a day. And chances are, actually, I don't even know if it's an hour. And chances are they're going out there with a whole bunch of other people at the same exact time, and who knows what they're actually able to do before they have to go back in and go do other things. Back to sitting in a room, on a desk, unable to move, unable to do anything other than whatever subject of the day is. From what I've seen, a lot of the Eastern schools and whatnot have a much better system there of a much shorter school day and way less busy work. They don't send you home with a bunch of schoolwork to fill out for no good reason other than that the teacher felt you needed to fill out more paperwork so that they had something else to report about. And they're less test driven. They're more about actually learning. From what I've seen, that's one of the major failings of the current school system is it's all about tests. You're studying for a test to then take the test, and then after that, you either pass the test or you don't. And then you move on to the next test, and prepping for that test, and taking that test. And yeah, tests serve a purpose. You should have tests occasionally to test for whether you've learned or not. Honestly, I think colleges had a better setup for that in some cases, because they'd have the midterm and then they'd have the finals. And usually the midterm was a good way to be like, okay, how are you learning? Are you actually learning things? And are you able to actually show that you've learned them? Cool. Or do you need to recap and go try again on things and prep for and get more preparation done before anything else? Sorry, my hand was cramping up a little bit. Alright, there we go. So, yeah. There should be a few tests, and from what I've seen, like other nations tend to do that still. They have a few tests, but they don't have a test every other day. It's not constantly, okay, we were going to learn this subject, and this subject, and this subject. You were going to memorize this, and this formula. You were going to memorize this formula. And now you're going to spit it back out on this test, and then we're never going to talk about it again. And I hope you remember it. It's like, they should be applied tests more so in a lot of ways. Like, less tests and more like, okay, cool. Today we're going to do a little bit of this, and we're going to do a little bit of this. And like, they should do a gradual, okay, we learned this, now we're going to move on to this a bit, but we're also going to still touch on this and this a little bit here and there. Just to keep it fresh. Like, you actually still have to use it occasionally, because if you don't apply what you learn, you're not going to actually remember it more than the time you need to do that one test. Take it easy. Be less worried about covering 16 different subjects in the time, and be more interested in actually learning something. Some of my best classes were ones where we had a syllabus for the semester. We were like, this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to go over this, and this. But then sometimes we'd go and be on a subject for an extra couple days or whatever because the subject wasn't, because the teacher, could see like we were interested in the subject or we hadn't addressed it fully and it was taking longer than expected to really address it properly for the whole class. And you know what? It was great. Because then, okay, maybe we didn't get to subject A, we didn't get to subject Z and D. But you know what? We covered A, B, and C, and everyone was on par with it, and we understood it, and we loved it. And we could learn it, and you could enjoy the things you actually enjoy and learn those things. Those were some of the best classes in college because it was less about, oh man, I can see none of you understood what I was telling you here, but now we have to move on to this or we won't be ready for the test. And more, all right, cool, I can see that you guys are not getting this, so let's try this different approach until it starts clicking more. And we'll figure something out. And we'll stick on this subject until it's understood and actually, being applied and how you can apply it. Let's figure out a way that you can apply it in a way that works and is understandable. We do this whole no student left behind thing, but half the time it's just rushing, either rushing someone ahead more so than they're really ready for, because, oh, gee, you've tested better, let's move you on to something you're not actually ready for, because, well, you did well, surely you can be, you want to go on to the next level of difficulty now, because so you don't get bored. It's like, no, let them actually learn. Let them have some time to. If a kid's got a subject down, great. Don't rush them into another one unless they actually want to move on. That's the other thing I found. Half the time they want to rush someone on ahead of them and to be like, oh, cool, you get moved up a class because you got this, because you score extra high on this, and now you're going to have to go deal with extra heavy stuff that you're probably not even ready for. Because we decide, hey, you now have you have the subject down, you're smart about this thing. The gifted child curse of, oh cool, move on. Now you get all this heavier stuff. What do you mean you don't love it anymore? What do you mean you're struggling now? Because we only moved you up a grade rather than keep you in the one grade just because you were doing well at it. Maybe you could have helped other students understand it better. No, you just move on. And maybe you didn't get a good grasp of it now because you only learned it a bit and then we moved you along for it. But then at the same time, there are students that I've seen want to move on. They have it down. They do have it down. They actually learn. And then the school district's like, yeah, but we can't move you on. You can't just take the testing and prove that you actually know it and move on with life and move on to the thing you want to cover up now. Because, no, that wouldn't be fair for the other kids who are still learning it or something. Like, I've seen it go both ways. Of half the time they want to rush someone well beyond where they should be and or want to be. And half the time they don't want to let them go when they do want to go, even if they can prove that they have it down and are ready to move on. What was that about? I don't know what that sound was. My computer just have a program do something? I don't know. That was weird. But, Wait. Are we still recording? We're still recording. Everything's going there. I was like, wait, maybe the recording stopped? Let me double check one more thing here. Yep, we got plenty of room. Not running out of room on it. So I don't know what that weird beep was about. Probably Windows updated something again. Windows loves to update all the time. I can usually tell when Windows is updating though, because some program or other is running at half speed, and I'm like, I bet Windows is updating things and making it difficult for it to actually process. How many? Okay, one giant floor with the house. Little floor, secondary floor, fencing all around, railing all around it. This is gonna be, yeah, I'm gonna have to do a two-parter on this, because I can't rant for that long. Also, I need to get to bed. Time is it? Sorry, 1 second, I didn't look at the clock. Oh yeah, it's midnight. For me right now, I am going to call it a night. Yeah, so time I feel is my input on one of the things we need to do. We need to revamp it so it's not just jamming as many subjects into a day as possible, and more. Let's hit a few subjects, help people actually learn them and understand them properly instead of rushing them through it. Make it less about rush. Oh, we filled the block. Now move on, and whether you're ready or not. To hey, let's actually help you learn, and then also, you know, if someone is really getting the subject and they obviously are already learned this stuff or moved beyond it, let them move beyond it when they want to. And if it turns out they maybe that didn't work out, let them move back. Like, don't make a huge fuss about it. Now, the reason that I think a lot of this is currently struggling is because we don't allow common sense. We don't allow people to make judgment calls, like in positions of where they should be having some authority on that. Like a student and a teacher can't work together on those things and make a decision to move on or not to, or okay, how can we adjust the schooling for that? Because the teachers don't have time to address things on an individual basis with the student. The student then has to get special tutoring, which takes up more time of their time, and because the tutor has to have their own time with the student then. And they can't do that during their own time, or they have to. Okay, and then the student's still being crushed by the workload because now there's getting more workload with the tutor and everything, while also having to still attend all the other classes. There needs to be give and take, and the ability to address the situation and go, okay, this is working here for this student, but not working for this student, this student, this student. So let's change up the course for them. And for that, we have to have time for the teachers to be able to take that time to do that, to change their approach, to change the addressing per student, to address each student. We have too many. There's been a thing on and off in discussions for schools for years now of class sizes being too big. But then you still got the same number of students, you still have to fit all the students in somehow. But why would we hire more teachers, or, maybe cut down on the number of stupid classes every student has to take every day, so that then those teachers could spread things out better. No, we can't do that. We can't risk not having 6 tests in a month. I feel like that's one of our biggest issues is we're jamming too much into too little, and then wondering why it's not working. And that would address half the issues, probably just right there. For like people learning and wanting to learn and loving to learn. Like let the students pick subjects. Let them hyper focus on a subject for occasion. Like, if my son could learn about nothing but trains, he'd be, we can't do that because he would only learn about trains and everything like that. But he would love he loves being able to learn about trains. And if we let him learn about trains, he's going to learn. about trains. And why would I stifle that? I'm not going to stifle his love of learning about those things by going, no, trains are stupid, you can't learn about them. Sure, it may be hard for him to eventually apply that in, like, actual job location wise, to some extent, but honestly, it just depends on how you approach it. And yeah, we're making sure he learns other things like how to read, how to write, basic life skills. But then, he can still learn about trains and know how to learn about trains. If anything, I think those things will help him learn more about trains, because then he can read more about it, he can write more about it. And I don't know, depending if he maintains that fixation on trains to when he's older, maybe he'll become one of the next engineers working on the railroad. I don't know. I know Amtrak needs all the help it can get fixing up their trains. Their trains are falling apart. I've ridden on them, and we had one area where there was like, oh, yep, sorry, we're going to a tunnel. Anyone with asthma, please move over a car because the doors on this car don't close. And we're going to go through a tunnel, and there's going to get smoke in here. And there was. That is a thing. But that's a whole other subject of neglect in certain aspects of jobs and other things. And I could go on about school district stuff and other possible fixes. I think we also need to focus less on tests. Like I said, let's actually learn. Let's focus more on actually learning the skills, learning the subjects, and less on, okay, let's learn this all in a cramped period of time in order to have them just regurgitate it onto a piece of paper and then never touch it again. Let's make sure they're actually learning the subjects. Take it slower pace. Oh no, not a slower pace. But if we slow things down on what they're learning when, they'll learn more ultimately long term. And if we give them more time to focus on certain subjects they like and not have to cram into an hour and move on, and cram into something else into an hour and move on, like, let their brains have time to process things. Let them learn and grow and take things at their pace. And let the teachers address things at their pace. Because some students really need a helping hand. And then others are going to be, I got that subject down, no problem. There's a funny thing in math. A lot of people, some people's brains are wired for geometry. And then some people, I think it was geometry. And then other people's brains are wired for algebra. And usually, it's one or the other. It's not both. Let the people who are good at one thing actually be good at something. And learn to be better at it, even. And lead those fields onto something better. We don't have specialists anymore. We could try for insane generalization, and to the point that no one can even generalize. Because they're getting so much thrown at them, they can't keep any of it down. And yeah, there's so many subjects that they're getting taught that aren't relevant, and the focus isn't on learning the things. They aren't learning how to learn, they're learning how to spit out information and then forget it. And then they don't actually learn. Or they're learning to hate learning because they're being forced to learn subjects they don't want to learn, they don't care about, and they aren't relevant to life. Anyway, I mean, man, this number of subjects that you get forced to teach or learn about, and then you never apply them. You never have to apply them in life because they're not important for anything other than, oh yeah, we talked about that. Or maybe this could have been... it's that whole, like, work thing. This could have been a memo. Why are we having an entire class on the subject this, while that isn't relevant to most things in life? It's not important. No one likes it. But so-and-so famous person did something with it in the past, and now we have to read about them and that. Whether we like it or not. It's a classic. Some of the classics suck. Some of the classics are the driest, hardest to read pieces of garbage out there because they set the stage for a genre, perhaps, but that doesn't mean they were good at it. And a lot of times the things that came after are better in a lot of ways because they learned from the mistakes of those classics and then got better. Not to say all the classics are bad. There's some that are great on various things, and there's things that can be learned from them. But like Charles Dickens got paid by the word. That's just why there's a lot of word count in there. And if you want to learn some weird words, Charles Dickens is great. But good luck getting through it sometimes. And some of his stuff is just words. For words' sake, it feels like. Because, like I said, he was getting paid by the word. And he was trying to make a living. Alright, I think that's enough input on all that, and I need to call it a night. And, we're close to halfway, I think? You get some more of this underside. All over here and here and here. Get this underside. I don't think this underside will take too much longer. And then the outer fencing is probably what's going to take the longest. Once we head up onto the above, and because everything else will be moderately in reach. It's the outer stuff that's going to be the real pain. Anyway, that's enough for my ranting and ravings for today. School. Let's fix it. Immediately then, what would have our politicians' career on if they actually fix problems? They might actually have to do their jobs. That's sad. That'd be sad. And yeah, I get people can't agree on all the fixes either, but that doesn't mean that we can't find some common ground to work on that actually at least is better than what we've got. There are a lot of things that maybe we can't fix, but we could definitely make better than they are. While still maybe not fully hitting that perfect spot, but man, if we could make some changes, we could really fix a few things in a way that at least isn't, ruining people's lives because, gee, now you're in college and now you have to take 16 remedial courses because you didn't actually learn anything in high school that stuck more than 3 seconds. Alright, clean the ends of these little wooden poles, apparently. Anyway, sorry about all the ranting today. That got weird. I don't usually rant. But I wasn't feeling like talking about a D&D subject today, and more just was talking in general, so that's how it goes some days. And I know I'm not the only one who goes on rants. I don't think I said anything or did anything that would get me canceled. Not like it matters anyway. I do this for a hobby. So, canceled. Oh, no. I have one less person watching. Because I don't have that many people that watch this stuff as far as I know. I am a very small fish in a very big pond. Alright, did that get that one done? It's done. This one's not done. Okay, I'm gonna get this done before I close up just because this could be a problem otherwise. Why aren't you done? There we go. You're done. And you're done, and that's a whole other issue. Yeah. Cool. Anyway, good night, everyone. Like I said, keep it respectful in the comments. Let's try constructive criticism, discuss things that could actually maybe help the situations improve. Or what are some other problems you've seen in the school systems that we could address, and what are your thoughts on what might help fix those? Like everything I've said, sure, it's opinion. And if you see an issue with what I've said, let's provide constructive criticism of don't attack people about it. Don't be like, you're wrong. That doesn't work this way. Try a simple thing that'll help people not put up their walls and help them actually address things and have a discussion is I kind of don't agree with that one. I feel like the real issue is this, and I haven't seen that happen much myself. And so maybe this would work better in that regard. Offer a difference, sure, but don't just attack someone because they have a different opinion than you. Especially since chances are their experience missing link fact, they deposit their scat in bundles, much like a wild hog, with which they apparently share an identical diet. But yeah, so don't attack people for just having an opinion. Whether you agree with it or not, there's better ways to do it in a constructive manner that doesn't, if you want to change someone's mind, don't attack them about it. Offer, maybe, in my opinion, this is a thing and this is what I've seen. Instead, I haven't seen that, but I've seen this. And maybe this would be a good fix in this regard. And chances are, you're both going to be valid. Because, very likely, you've both got valid experiences that you've actually seen and heard, and with valid possible solutions to them that could work, at least under certain conditions. And maybe under those conditions that you've seen. Because you know what? The world's a big place, and a lot of things that happen in one place don't happen in another, but then they happen somewhere else, or they happen slightly differently somewhere else. The world is insanely big, and people don't think about that. They're like, no, it's my one experience or no one else's. Half the time, and then they get offended if someone does have a different experience and a different opinion of them. Let's not do that. Let's create a constructive community in this regard and actually address problems in a way that we might actually someday come to a solution that we can more or less agree on and fix things so that, sure, it may not fix it for us right now, but maybe we can fix it for our kids or their kids. Preferably before it gets that far down the chain, because that means it's still taking us several years to fix anything. But, a lot of people my age are in work. We work for a living. I work for a living. And my boss and I, we're constantly working to improve what we do and how we do it. And sometimes we have different opinions on things, but we share those opinions and we address those issues with each other. And then we go, we could do this better. Or, I'm still seeing an issue here. Something isn't working the way we want it to here. We thought this would do this, but it's not. Or, something is still going wrong. Let's figure it out. And we work together to address the issue, and chances are, sometimes I'll think of a solution that he didn't think of. Or he'll think of a solution that I didn't think of. And maybe it means more work for me. And, I get paid to do that work. So, we'll address it. We'll work on it. We will overcome. And we will find a solution. And then we work on something else. And maybe I have to learn something in the process. And maybe he has to learn something in the process. But we're both willing and able to work on our differences of opinion and gain strength from that instead of getting into a fight over it. we go, all right, yeah, I see where you're coming from. And all right, but we do have to do this. This is what we have to accomplish. And all right, so let's find a working solution that we can actually make work. And usually, this is we're working on solutions that have to be worked on between not just me and him, but also several other employees and coworkers. And we have to make those solutions work for everyone to some degree or another. And that is done. And like we accomplished that. Eventually, it takes a while sometimes. But we are working on it and we're actually being constructive. And I feel like we don't see that in a lot of our current government and a lot of our current school system and a lot of our current societal problems, because right now political parties play like, but most of the political parties are just one side of the same coin, and they're just bouncing back and forth between each other to get votes. They aren't actually interested in truly fixing a problem. They say they are. They'll always say they are. But then, like, how many times have we had... Let's go with presidents, for example. How many times have we had a president be like, we're going to address this, this, and this, or a congressman, oh yeah, we're going to address this, this, and this. And then it's one, and then either they get nothing done, they never touch the subject, or they touch it in a way that doesn't actually fix the problem, but because it was their idea and they did it this way, how dare we question it? How dare it be questioned? No one else can obviously be right and have a better solution, so they dig their heels in, and then we never actually fix the problem because they're too busy fighting. I mean, half of the news is Congress fighting about one thing or another with either each other or with the president or vice versa, or the president fighting with them, and no one's actually fixing things because they're too busy arguing, and no one wants to give any ground in a way to go, well, maybe my idea isn't perfect, and okay, you've got some valid points here. Let's address those and make them, and how can we integrate that into making an overall better plan, a better solution than what I had on my own or what you had on your own. And our government doesn't seem to do that anymore because they're just interested in, if we talk about this and then talk about this, we make the news, we get popularity, we get votes, we get reelected. Too many people that don't have term limits is still an issue, in my opinion, as well. But that's my opinion. And maybe, and I understand there's reasons why some things don't have term limits, though I really still think they should. That's a subject for another day. Like I said, it's Dean night. I need to call it a night. Good night, everyone. Bye. This is going to be a long project. It's definitely a part 2. But we're over 60%, so that's good. Let's save.